This pattern is called the Skip Nymph. It's a wonderful nymph pattern, Baetis nymph pattern, developed by Skip Morris. I've got just a bit of a variation on. I'm just tying it with a gold bead on the front. Typically I don't see it with a gold bead. And we'll add a partridge feather for the legs when we get to that part of the fly. I'm just starting out with a size 16 hook in the vise. I'm using some tan thread, just getting it started here on the hook. And we're not going to tie it all the way back to where the barb of the hook is. We're going to leave it just a little bit short, and then I'm going to bring it back forward towards the bead. Next I'm going to add a piece of extra small gold wire. I'm just going to tie that onto the lens side of the hook here. This will all be covered up, but we'll just tie it down for good measure. And we're going to bring that right back to where we ended our thread, back near the barb of the hook. So the pattern relies on pheasant tail fibers quite a bit for the tail, as well as a coat over the back and the wing case. And we're all going to use this one feather for that. I want these tails to be relatively short, kind of like a pheasant tail nymph. Got those lined up. We'll sit them down on top of the hook. I'm going to take a wrap around it, and then I want my thread to kind of slide backwards a little bit, so it's back where that tie-in point is. I'm going to pull that fairly tight after a wrap or two. Take a couple of wraps forward. Look at the length. That's going to be just fine. Yeah, I want to shorten that up just a hair. That's going to do me fine. Then I'm going to pull those fibers backwards. We're going to tie right over the top of them. If we can catch them, that is. And that's going to do me just fine. For the abdomen, I'm just going to use some light tan Awesome Possum here. I want to dub this on fairly tightly just so I can keep a pretty narrow abdomen. It will taper a little bit. So once I've got that kind of dubbed on, pulling these pheasant tail fibers back. Go ahead and start there, and we're just going to work our way forward. Looks like we're going to add a little bit more. So next I'm going to take this gold wire we tied in on the lens side of the hook and go ahead and pull that underneath the hook shank. I'm going to pull these pheasant tail fibers over the top. I'm going to drape that over the top, and then I'm going to pull straight down to tighten that down. And then we're just going to take open wraps, doing the same thing each time. Try not to bump your vise and knock it out of the way. And these gold wraps are going to give us the ribbing we want, and it's also going to secure that pheasant tail fiber down to the top of our hook shank. Once I have it there, I'm just going to pull that pheasant tail fiber back. Gonna wrap right over the top of the gold wire, to secure it in place. And I'm just going to use the helicopter friction method, which will be fairly easy because that's extra small. I'm just going to turn back to the Awesome Possum, but this time I'm going to go with the brown rather than that lighter tan color. And that's going to be our thorax. I'm going to make sure we cover up the butt ends of those pheasant tail fibers. We'll add just a tiny little bit more. See some of the guard hair sticking out. At this point I like to just go ahead and turn this upside down and tease out a little bit of that darker Awesome Possum dubbing. Just easier to do this now than after we put the legs in. For the legs, we're just going to use a Hungarian partridge feather. I've already stripped off the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and clip this in a pair of hackle pliers. Once I have that in my hackle pliers, I'm just going to go ahead and strip some of those fibers backwards. Once I've got those stripped backwards, I'll go ahead and release that from my hackle pliers. I'm going to come in and try to make a nice clip so it's even like that. And once I have it even like that, I'm just going to go ahead and stroke those fibers back forward, and we have a nice V shape, which is what we're looking for. Going to straddle that V over the top. We're going to shorten these legs a little bit, but I don't want to get them too long to start with, so I'm going to just pinch them along the sides. I'm going to take a loose wrap over the top. I'm not going to pull this tight until I come upwards, straight up, to try to keep them from spinning around too much. Once I have those kind of in place where I want them, I'm going to look at the length. They're a little bit too long, so I'm going to take this back handle part. We'll just pull it back a little bit to shorten those legs up. Just about like that. And I'll go ahead and take a wrap or two on the other side of that. We'll come in with our scissors and we'll cut out the balance of the partridge. With that taken care of, I'm going to take my pheasant tail, let that straddle right in between those, and that's going to help separate those legs apart. It's going to give us our wing case. Get those legs spread nice out from side to side. Take a wrap on the other side of this as well. And I'm just going to come in with my scissors and remove the excess of that pheasant tail that served us very well. And with that, I'm just going to use my thread and kind of clean up the head, trapping some of those butt ends of the pheasant tail down. We'll give ourselves a little bit of extra thread, grab our whip finisher. Pull that nice and tight. I'm going to come in with my thread cutter and go ahead and remove our thread. Now finally, I'm just going to take a bodkin here. I want to push those tails up. I'm going to go ahead and grab my scissors, and what we're going to do here is we're going to remove the fibers that are in the very center here. Escapee down here. You'll see what that does is it gives us a nice V-shaped tail that you'll see on a Baetis pattern. And with that, we're done. There is the Skip Nymph, Skip Morris pattern with the bead head. Kind of use those partridge feathers for the legs. You can see how the pheasant tail kind of adds that stripe across the top of the abdomen. Also creates that wing case and that nice V tail by clipping out a little bit of that pheasant tail. So grab yourself a hook, throw it in your vise, and give this one a shot.